Back to the cameras.
It's unbelievable. The two guys putting the wheel on, they were new. Fuck. Fourth and fifth, but Gene, you finished fourth and fifth here. You fucking look like rock stars.
Here are the lights. And the lights are blank. The cars are moving. We are go in Monaco. Oh, I can't be spun around.
Brilliant move. That's the best move we've seen all season. Brilliant rain, Josh.
Griffin here, go through the inside, also to the Red Bull of Kate Fleming, who becomes a champion of the world.
Oh my God!
Okay, hello everybody and welcome back to VRS. Now this is the mid-season, the silly season driver draft. Of course my name is Josh 6000. Here alongside me as always is Cav. How are we doing today, Cav?
Good, Josh. Wouldn't be a VRS stream without you having tech issues, so I'm glad we're finally up and running before the season's fucking over. But all jokes aside, looking forward to this one. Of course, this is quite the unique part of our league, and that there's a big switch around potential possible after 6 rounds. So it's going to be great to see the 9 seats that we have up for grabs and who gets them.
Indeed, yeah. So without further ado, we have a few TPs and a few special guests with us today, so we'll get to them when they come. So of course we're going to get into how the teams look currently. So before this draft gets underway, this is what it looks like. So of course we can see the underlined drivers are the drivers who have not been kept, and the ones who are not underlined are the ones that have been kept. So of course I see some TPs who've been underlined, so we have some we won't say firings, but some resignations from the team principal. So
some bullets that had to be fired.
Exactly.
I'm not looking at the right hand side of that graphic, but you know, the poor El Shamrock and Gaffo, they had to go. They had to be put down. They're gone to the farm is the official line, I believe we're going with.
Yeah.
And on the driver's side, yeah, some interesting ones. Obviously, we know the story around the likes of Owen, who's no longer in his seat in McLaren, and then we have also a lot of controversy at Williams, where their TP didn't submit their document in time. So both drivers have been released by default. So it's going to be great to see how that plays out.
Indeed, yeah. So both of their drivers now, whether they're sought after by other TPs is another question.
Ken Ratcliffe, you must be joking.
We'll definitely be getting into that later on. So why don't we get into the first team principal here, and that is Mr. Farrell. So AlphaTauri, he has not Jack and Mags, and what you can expect is he has kept both of them. Cav, there's no real mistakes made from them. Of course, there's a few crashes or something like that, but nothing too mad between them two. They're doing pretty decent and keeping Farrell high up on the TP championship as well. So they're not doing too bad. And I think he's made a good decision in keeping them as well. What do you think?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Farrell is currently leading the TP championship, so when you're number one, why change? And, you know, 2 good drivers. I think we were all very surprised that he got Maglock so late in the draft. So very strong team, performing very consistently, picking up points pretty much every race. Where Jack doesn't, Maglock steps in and vice versa. So yeah, Farrell in a great position and has decided to hold the status quo, which is interesting to see.
Indeed it is. So let's move on to the next team. Not a lot of controversy or anything going on the team that's leading the constructors, but we're getting on to Alpine. Once again, they've remained the same, Cap. Now I think this is quite interesting. Now we have Spider-Man, who's currently, I think he's only a point or two off of the lead, so he's in second place currently in the driver, so he's doing very well. But someone who isn't doing so well is FaZe McBot. What do you think about that situation?
Yeah, I thought this might be one where Gary would pull trigger and see what he could do in silly season. Of course, if Gary he would have had at worst second pick, because Gary is currently second in the TP championship, but has decided to show faith in FaZe. We know FaZe is a very quick driver when he's in clean air, but obviously in traffic sometimes gets into a bit of trouble. And more importantly, I think this season there's been issues with attendance as well. So I'm a little bit surprised, but at the same time, Gary's in P2, he's doing a good job, and who are we to criticise?
Indeed, yeah. So he's staying how he is, and let's see how that gets on throughout the rest of the season. So next, we're going to be going to a Red Bull. And of course, we can see that Delano has replaced the Shamrock in that team. And he has decided to also keep his driver lineup as well. So, and 2 very decent drivers who have definitely shown their potential and shown that what they can do this season. So what do you think about that one, Cav? I think it's pretty the same as the previous team principals as well.
Yeah, I think so. I didn't expect Dylan to release either of the lads. He obviously himself only came in Qatar. He wasn't around for round one. It was Shamrock who was leading that team to ruin. And since Dylan has took over, in fairness, he has done a very good job. 66 points to his name, P3 in the championship. So doing very, very well as a TP. And of course, OP and LCK. Both not at the top end of the driver standings, but you know, LCK they're in fifth with 33. They're probably the most balanced, I suppose, of teams out there. So yeah, as a team that are consistent, I suppose, and with an even spread across their two drivers, I wasn't surprised to see Dylan hang on to the two lads.
Yeah, indeed. So let's get on to our next team now, which is Aston Martin. So Aston Martin, of course, signed Lucky Nutshot signed Hawthorne late on in the season. So he has obviously decided to keep Hawthorne, despite maybe a not so great race in the last couple. But
been generous.
Yeah, yeah. But we do have Lucky Nutshot here, so we're going to have a chat to him about his decisions there. Of course, he has kept Sanko, which is, you know, a no-brainer there. But Lucky, are you there with us?
I am.
Yeah, good. So first, we're gonna ask you an easy question about Sanko. So before we get into the more difficult one, what do you think about Sanko's performance? So obviously you've been happy enough to keep him on. So, and you've said he's your star driver as well. You've made that known. So what was your decision easy?
Pretty easy, as up the wall he can drive me sometimes. I'm still waiting on that 1v1 Cav. We'll do that soon.
That absolutely will.
I think he's probably the fastest driver on raw pace in the league.
Okay.
But
Statement.
I do think so, but I
Grandad's
think
over here looking.
hooking it up every week. Hooking it up every week isn't consistent for winning every race. But with Owen gone, I do think he is the fastest driver on raw pace. So if he just keeps going the way he is, he's not far off the top of the league. Like, one wrong race for GAC and it brings everyone back into play again.
Yeah, that's right.
He's in a decent position, so I just let him keep doing his thing.
Of course,
and with Sanko, Lucky, have you done much in terms of like talking about strategy or mentoring? You know, as you said, he has the pace. It just seems to go wrong from him races, whether it be, you know, racecraft or strategy. He just doesn't seem to be able to always maximise the pace he has in the car. Have you had any chats with him about that sort of stuff, or given any advice maybe from your own side?
Just tracks that he's less comfortable with. Just that pushing more than he is capable of holding together. That's probably the only thing that I've had to say to him at all, because other than that, he does everything himself. He does the strategy himself. He doesn't need anybody to help him during the race. He's just happy to go himself. So I just leave him to it on that, but just kind of letting him know that you don't have to win or be on the podium every race. Just keep ticking along and pick up points.
And you mentioned there Sanko doesn't need much support during the races. On the flip side, your second driver, Hawthorne, certainly needs a nice bit of babysitting. Certainly keeping a bottle of Bucky out of his hand is tricky at times. How have you found Hawthorne since he came in? You obviously signed him in round 5. Happy to get hold of him?
Yeah.
Don't sound too sure of that.
He was my first choice for taking on that second driver, because look, not in an insulted way, there wasn't a whole lot in the pool at the time.
Fucking hell, shots fired, but fair.
Look, no, he's a perfect reserve. Like, when we brought him in, and you can see that he has the pace. It's just sometimes there's the little spin, but or most of the time, but he'll pick up points, and that's. I just needed 2 cars that could score points, and I think I have it now. Whereas before, I didn't have a second driver, and it kind of shows in the standings that we've got a driver up the top of the up the top of the driver standings, but we were way down in the constructors. So if we can get that balance back, I think everything should be fine from now on in.
And you're sitting at the moment in the TP Championship on 56 points. As you said yourself, Sanko been your number one driver. 48 have come from him. Is the key for the second half of the season really now to see both drivers contribute? And then I assume you're confident enough of avoiding the chop, in other words, finishing 8th, 9th or 10th.
Yeah, no, I think we're far clear of the chop.
Yeah.
But the idea, I don't think the constructors is in play really. I think the teams on front are probably a little bit too far in front, especially AlphaTauri. So
yeah,
maybe just finishing in that top 3 would be ideal.
Great stuff.
Very nice. Right, thank you very much, Lucky, and best luck to you for the second half of the season with your 2 drivers, or maybe 1.5 drivers, I should say. Anyway, thanks, Lucky, for coming on to us. So, we're going to get into our next team, and that next team, now they did make a driver change, don't worry, we're not just going to go through a load of teams that haven't made any changes. It is Mercedes and Ryan Daff. So, of course, championship leader, not Gak, he's got to keep him. If he got rid of him, there'd be a few questions in the Mercedes garage, but he has kept not Gak, of course, driving very well, very consistently. And Thomas, who is just... he's gotten the bullet. He's disappeared, it seems, off the face of the planet since the first race. Had a great race, and well, for the vast majority of it, and now he's gone. What do you think of that, Kev?
Yeah, I'm not surprised. I think, we're getting into obviously every team now going forward will be a team that's made a change. Ryan been the first of those. Ryan's in a lucrative position because as, fourth in the championship, he knew he was going to get a decent run on, picking his replacement driver. So to give up Thomas and have, fourth pick at worst, I think made sense. Thomas, obviously, particularly in terms of attendance, has not been, in any way up to the standard, I'm sure, that Ryan wanted to see, and Gak has obviously been carrying that team since pretty much the start of the season. So yeah, if he can get a second driver scoring and contributing with Gak obviously leading the drivers side, I mean it's going to make a huge difference because with Gak leading the drivers championship, he doesn't need a huge amount of support to propel Ryan Dav into maybe even the top 3, or who knows, maybe win the TP championship.
Indeed. So with Thomas gone, of course, he has a spare seat and he has gotten a driver now. This driver, very sought after, Cav, wasn't he? He was very, very sought after, and that is none other than Mr. Caden Conway. So, Caden, everybody wanted Caden, didn't they, Cav?
They did, everyone and their mother, and yeah, obviously that's Ryan's privilege having the first pick essentially in this, because as we know, the team above him didn't bother to change, so Ryan the first, or the highest placed I suppose team making a change, and because of that luxury he gets to Caden. So the strong get stronger, and it's going to be very interesting. Like, that is a serious partnership now for the next 6 races, lots of points up for grabs, and both drivers who have good attendance as well. So Mercedes at this stage, I'd say, are going to be certainly joint, if not up there, in terms of the favourites for all 3 championships.
Yeah, a very strong pairing now, with Caden coming in. So, let's get on to our next team now. This is the most controversial one here. It is Ryan Curran. He didn't decide to get rid of his drivers. It was decided for him. He decided not to hand in the driver draft form. So both of his drivers were automatically released. So Ben Ratcliffe and Griffin went into the abyss of the driver draft. So as you can see, both cars were free. So Ryan Curran, he has made his first decision, and we have it here, and it is Ben Ratcliffe. He had a chance to replace him and he didn't. So there's something going on there with Ryan Curran. What do you think about that decision, Kev?
Never seen such a shit show in my life. I mean, both drivers released, as you said. Ryan went on his silly season holidays a little bit too early and has now had to scramble to try sign back his 2 drivers. As you said, he had an option to look at, different options on the grid, but has decided to hold faith with Ben. We all remember Ben had a very good start to the season and then fell off from there after winning, I believe it was the first or second race of the season Ben won. So yeah, must have been in Qatar then. So yeah, look, Ben has 25 points to his name. Griffin has had slightly less luck than that, with 23, but two good drivers, and with Ben re-signing, it'll be interesting to see now with him knowing he has a seat till round 12 how much better he can do, because in the case of Williams, they're not doing too well. Ryan's on 54 points, and he's only really a result away from the drop zone.
Fair, indeed. So it's going to be tight for the Williams team and a lot of other teams as well. One of those teams we're going to get into very, very soon. We're going to find out what car number 2 is very, very shortly. Not right away. We won't give you everything straight away. But we're getting now into Ferrari. So Ferrari, Daniel Mullen had Kajoko and Carl, and Kajoko, who of course decided not to race a single race except for the last round. So they have decided to release Kajoko, of course. I think it was a mutual agreement between the two. No choice for Daniel Mullen really in Kajoko. There was no time being able to race, so that's okay. So he had a choice now. He had one of the later choices, Cav, didn't he? Because he was lower down in the constructors.
That's right. So Dan was sitting 7th in the Team Principal Championship. Yeah. So essentially in this process he was 3rd pick, and obviously it's very hard. Then you start to get into the idea of, well, if I don't get this guy and I don't get this guy, who am I going to actually want at that point in time? So you're shooting a little bit more in the dark. But yeah, as you said, Kajoko obviously just couldn't commit. I think he showed up for the sprint, and in fairness had a very good sprint. He brought home 8 points, which I think is a big chunk of the Ferrari total this season. But in saying that, you need your driver on the grid. So yeah, let's see what Dan decided to do.
Yeah, so we are going to see now, and he's managed to grab himself SJR. So quite a good driver, and we do have Daniel Mullen here. So Daniel, how did you come to the decision of SJR? Was he your first choice?
He wasn't actually, he was my second, and me and Carl actually talked about this in terms of who do you want. I went to Carl, who do you want? And he goes, go Caden or SJR. So I put those two first and second, and just hoping that I got one of the two really, and just, that's how we came to that decision as a team.
Very good. So it's always good to be able to trust your driver. And do you think there's going to be a little bit of a clash between them, or do you think they'll be able to work well?
I hope there's not a clash anyway. Time will tell. We'll find out on Sunday when they start their first race together.
Yeah,
and it goes without saying, one of the issues for SJR on the grid has been attendance. We've seen him miss obviously a good few races. Have you any insight on that in terms of will he be more available for the last 6 races, or are you taking a punt that he can hopefully show up, because obviously you're going from potentially one attendance problem to another?
Taking a punt, sadly.
Okay. Interesting.
If I knew that, I'd have changed.
Okay.
So
sales are final.
Yeah. So Daniel, of course, you're near that the kill zone of team principals for the season 1. Are you worried now? Now you have SJR on your team. Are you a little bit less worried? Are you more worried? What do you think?
I think I'm still worried because I know one bad result and I'm back in basically the chopping block. So I kind of need him to be there for a good chunk of the second half of the season, and the two boys to be scoring points, and good points at that. Yeah. Just to have any chance of, I suppose, keeping my job and not doing what every other Ferrari team principal seems to be doing over the last 10 years.
Well, I was going to say, absolutely, Dan, you're living up to the Ferrari TP name.
Yeah.
And if we were to put you, relatively speaking, like if we want to tell people how much trouble you're in, never mind the fact you're in 7th, you're 1 point ahead of Rando's total, which I think is a bigger cause for concern. But 2 good drivers, obviously, who, in Carl's case in particular, I think it's fair to say has had some awful luck in the first 6 races. So I expect, and I'm sure you expect as well, you should see a better stint of races for the last 6.
That's what I'm hoping for anyway, and kind of
you have your home race to come as well, don't you, in the final round in Hungary? So that could be important.
Hopefully I have a chance to keep my job by then.
Absolutely.
Right, thank you very much, Dan, and best of luck for the rest of the season. And we're going to stay with Ferrari here. We do have one of his drivers who he has kept. We have Carl. So, Carl, how are you getting on tonight?
All right, lads. What's going on?
So, Carl,
I'm doing.
talk us through your season so far. So, obviously, as Cav said, you were a bit unlucky in a lot of the races. What were your thoughts?
I don't know. Like, I felt pretty alright coming into. Obviously, I know in terms of quality, I'm towards the bottom of the pecking order because obviously there's a lot of tier 1, tier 2 drivers of LOI in this league, and obviously I myself am tier 3, and I don't know. I knew myself coming into it would be a tough season to pick up the odd point, and maybe before Dan picked me, I was surprised that I got picked, but I took it as it is, and I just, as you said, I think I've had a lot of bad luck, a couple of spins myself, but yeah, look, it is. I think you take the bad luck and you move with it. Eventually, it'll come back around and swing your way in some way.
Exactly, yeah. And so go ahead if you're going to say something.
Go on. I was just going to tell you to go on.
So we'll ask you now. Daniel Mullen, as a team principal, do you hate him as much as we do, or do you think he's all right?
Aha, no, Dan's alright. Dan's alright. You learn to put up with him, don't you?
That's it.
No, Dan's bang on. Dan's bang on.
Yeah.
He's easy to talk to. You can chat to him about whatever. Tell him this. Have a little rant like I have. I'm sure he's maybe seen one or two. I don't know. He's easy to talk to, easy to get on with, and yourself.
Do you feel, Carl, any sort of, I don't want to say pressure, but obviously the big thing in this league is every season the drivers will be, re-signed by TPs, whoever the TPs are. But as you're well aware, Dan is essentially fighting for the role he wants to hang on to. Do you feel any kind of pressure in terms of, 6 races now to perform from?
Yeah, I feel bad if I was the one that cost it, because obviously I've had a pretty bad 4-6 races, all things considered. And yeah, if he picked me, he doesn't want to be one of the first VRS season, one of the first people to lose the seat, and it goes down the history books. Like, I wouldn't want to be part of that either. So if I can help out and pick up a few points, and SGO, obviously we know SGO is a really quick driver. I know myself from being with him elsewhere that he's a pretty busy man, but he can race when he does race. He's a quick driver, so if I can help him out, and I'll do that, and we'll walk away up hopefully.
Brilliant stuff. Well, as I said, 1 point ahead of Rando is how bad the situation is at Ferrari right now. So
that says it all, doesn't it?
That says it all.
The fella's had no drivers all season.
This is exactly it. Yeah, he's had lovely hair but no drivers. So look, he has one out too.
Would you find that lovely?
I don't know. Based on his TikToks and what you see there, that mop gets an awful lot of love. Yeah, I don't know, but however,
love is an interesting word. Anyway,
exactly.
Right.
Well, great. Thanks, Carl, and good luck to you and, of course, to your teammate as well, Daniel Mullen, for the rest of the season. So, we're going to get away from Ferrari. We've been talking to them for too long. We're going to get into who we've just discussed there, Mr. Rando. So, Rando, yeah, he hasn't really had his drivers around for the vast majority of this season. As you can see, Bunsey is not underlined, meaning that Bunsey has not been sacked and Bunsey has not raced. So, don't know what the decision is there with Rando, but he has decided to release Bluefoot though.
Yeah, no major surprises, I don't think, with Bluefoot, because I don't think he's attended a race. So, yeah, can't say I'm surprised. The big surprise, I think, is that he decided to persevere with Bunsey. I'm not sure if we've any clarity on Bunsey's situation. I know, obviously, the issue for Bunsey is that his wheel has been broken for quite a while, and I don't think he has any line of sight on when that's going to be back. But Rando's certainly rolling a big dice there by hanging on to him. Bunsey, obviously, if he was available, is one of the best drivers in the VRS grid. I don't think there's any argument about that. But the problem is obviously availability, and that's a huge part of getting points on the board, as we know. So yeah, Rando, for a man in the drop zone, I expected he might go a bit more conservative, get 2 drivers in that maybe are guaranteed to be there every week, and we've seen a lot of races where if you just finished it would have got you a few points, but he's decided to put his eggs in the Bunsey basket, and whether he gets burnt we'll see in a few weeks' time, I suppose.
Yeah, we will indeed, and we'll see right now who his car number 2 is going to be occupied by, and I think a few people can guess who it's going to be. It's going to be the man himself. It is the Bartafor. So Bartafor, of course, as we know, scored Rando his first ever points. I believe it was in USA. And Rando seemed to have had a connection with Bartafor there, so he's decided to keep him on. May not be the quickest driver on the grid, but seems to be getting points, and he seems to be doing decently well. So well enough for Rando to pick him up. Bartafor has 28 points, sitting ninth in the drivers. So to not have a seat and be ninth in the drivers and considered not one of the fastest, is not too bad, is it?
No, that's exactly it. Bartafor, as you said, I think he'd admit himself, he's obviously not at the top end of this grid in terms of outright pace, but a driver that has massively improved. You see him racing, obviously, as Carl has already name dropped the old LOI league. You see him in LOI every week, and he's been going from, being competitive in tier 5 to 4 to 3 to 2. He looks very comfortable now, right up as far as there. And yeah, he not only now has the consistency he always has, but he has a nice bit of pace to go with it, and only continues to improve. As you said, 28 points, so he is basically our joint highest scoring reserve, and not surprised to see him get picked up. And as we've said, Rando desperately just needs points on the board. Yeah, so knowing Bartafor will be there and is reliable to show up every week, hopefully that will, from Rando's perspective, not mine, propel him forward.
Indeed. That's kind of hope and pray that Rando has a good season, just for his own health and safety. So we're going to get into Alfa Romeo. Now, Alfa Romeo is an interesting one. Their team principal has decided to vanish. So Milano has exited the premises and is not going to be returning.
The Italian Shamrock.
There's about 6 of them in the league as far as anyone is concerned. But he has been replaced by Tom Brown. So he is the new and hopefully improved Alfa Romeo team principal. And of course, he, had Caden and SJR. They're both gone from Alfa Romeo. They've been picked up by other teams. And here we go for Tom Brown. Let's see what he's going to be picking up for himself, because we don't know a lot about him, but seems to be hiding within the shadows. So we're going to see who he's going to pick up for his first driver, and it is going to be Hayden. So what you think of that one, Kev? We haven't seen a lot of Hayden, have we?
No, he's been on the grid intermittently when he's been needed as a reserve, but Alfa Romeo is and has been, no fault of Tom's, but pretty much the joke team of the season in terms of we've gone through 3 team principals now at this stage, and of course both drivers released by default. So Tom has a big job in his hands to rebuild Alfa Romeo, and Hayden was right up on his list, and I get it. I mean, in terms of showing up every week, reliability, consistency, definitely there. I think like a lot of the other drivers we've spoken about tonight, maybe doesn't have the top end pace of this league, but it is quite a wide spectrum of pace and fairness. So yeah, Hayden, if he shows up every week for Tom and has the right direction behind him, definitely think they can improve the Alfa Romeo situation. It certainly can't get any fucking worse.
You say that, but anything can happen, and it usually does. So we're getting into McLaren now. So McLaren has also had a change in team principal. We know Francesco has resigned on his own. He has not gotten the bullet. He's not being kicked. He's not being banned. He has decided.
He jumped before he was fucking pushed.
On his own terms, that he will resign, and he has been replaced by Sailor Sammy. So Sammy has come in, and he's hoping to make a change for the McLaren team. So we're going to get into who he has decided to pick for his first driver, and that will be Lukey Dookie. So Luke, who was looking to be a Ferrari driver, is now a McLaren driver. What do you think of that, Kev?
Yeah, so a lot going on in McLaren as well. Similar to Alfa Romeo, there's been a lot of change and a lot of issues. They've had an absent team principal for most of the season. They've had Owen Moore in their number 1 car, who was the first pick, we should remember, at the start of the season, and showed obviously an awful lot of pace potential, but has imploded in more ways than one over the course of the VRS season. And now we find ourselves with McLaren with a completely new lineup from team principal down through the 2 cars. So Sailor Sammy isn't known to me, but known to you, and you can obviously fill people in on the TP and what he'll bring. But in terms of Lukey, Again, Lukey I'd put in the same category as Bartafor, maybe slightly quicker, but a driver that, has always had good consistency, good reliability in terms of showing up, but maybe not had, the greatest level of pace. But over the last, I suppose, 6 to 9 months, like Bartafor, we've seen Lukey's pace, go very far forward. He's been consistently racing in Tier 3 with myself in League of Ireland, and, at no uncertain occasion kicking my ass, which isn't much of a feat, but even still, he's had an awful lot of pace, and has certainly progressed from where he was, as I said, about 12 months ago. So yeah, Lukey's a really good, reliable signing. Obviously has had a few incidents in his last few reserve races, so we'll need to get those out of his system, but certainly as terms McLaren needing points on the board, a good signing.
Indeed. So we're getting into the car number 2s now. So Williams, as we saw earlier, Ryan Curran has hopefully not I don't think he's decided not to do the draft pick, but he hasn't done it, and his second seat is filled with the same driver. So he has been, I wouldn't call it lucky Cav, would you? Getting Ben Ratcliffe back in, but he's stayed with the same driver lineup for this season.
Yeah, nobody's ever called hanging on to Ben Ratcliffe as a lucky break, but he has the two drivers once again. Ben and Griffin, both very capable on their day. Ben, very, very fast driver. I don't think he gets as much time as he previously had to dedicate to the game, but in saying that, when he does get the practice in, we know he has very, very good pace. Again, good credentials from the LOI side. Griffin has really, really good pace. I think now that he's cockpit Griffey, he is adamant on driving in that cockpit view, and what that has seemed to bring to his game has been the odd additional spin. So if he can get those out of his system, whether it's a changed camera or whether it's just getting used to the cockpit camera, Griffin is a very capable driver, and we've seen this season when he finishes and doesn't have incidents, he's very, very quick. But the problem has been, a mistake here and there has usually turned into a DNF, and that's a huge problem.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. So not a bad lineup. Ben Ratcliffe, of course, has a win under his belt, and Griffin not looking too bad either. So it's a decent team, the Williams team has turned out to be. But again, as you said, the consistency needs to be looked at, and hopefully they can improve on that. And best of luck to the Williams team. So, Alfa Romeo, car number 2 for Tom Brown. So he has decided to go for Hayden as his first pick, and his car number 2. Now, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to strap yourselves in, hold on to your seats. Hold on to your jocks. Hold on to everything here. Because what I'm about to tell you, you're not going to believe. But believe it, because Grandad Gamer is filling that second seat. Come on, ladies and gentlemen, give him a round of applause. He has managed to get himself a seat. He has shown what he can do. 9 points in Season 1. And Grandad Gamer has himself a full-time seat in Alfa Romeo. And
wow,
congrats to Grandad Gamer. And we have him here. So we're going to have a chat with him. I'm sure he's as surprised as everyone else. So, Grandad, how are you getting on?
Just a little bit. To be fair, to be invited here to sat here for an hour and a half to not have a drive would have been a bit off either.
Yeah. We wouldn't do that shit.
But it was getting down there. I was ticking down the numbers, and I was like, hang on, what are they doing?
Yeah.
don't worry, we're not as incompetent as Josh makes us look.
No.
Yeah, it is obviously great to see one of the fan favourites hidden on the grid. Tom's rebuild of Alfa Romeo. How much are you looking forward to being part of that now, Grandad? You know where you're going to be for the next 6 races. You're not floating around each week waiting for that last minute call up. So how are you looking forward to the second half of the season with Tom?
I'm looking forward to the stability. So at least I know I've got a race. I mean, it's no shock to find that I can. If I have a good day, I'm bringing in 8th, 9th, or 10th. So maybe with Hayden, the new teammate, if he's the fast guy, let him go and get the big points, and I can just be old reliable at the back.
Excellent. And any
as long as
particular
they don't take me around the back and shoot me later. But
yeah. Hopefully you're not put down by Tom before the end of the season, and we'll make sure he knows just what a celebrity he's getting into the team. But looking at the last 6 races, Grandad, any particular tracks you're looking forward to? In brief, we have Australia, Bahrain, Spain, Netherlands, Hungary, and then we've the France and Imola double header. Any of those in particular you feel particularly competent on or like?
I quite like Australia.
Okay.
I preferred the old layout, being old Grandad, but
me both.
But yeah, I quite like Australia. Hungary seems to, it's not something I tend to look through, but seems to be able to do all right on when I've done league racing in the past. So you never know. I'll just stick to the normal. Try and stay out of trouble, and then once everyone else has smacked each other off the track, I can nick a few points.
Excellent stuff.
That's right, yeah. So, Grandad, we're looking forward to having you. You've been in nearly like on every race anyway. So, to have a full-time seat, are you surprised, or did you think maybe someone might pick you up, looking at your consistency?
I wasn't 100% sure because obviously, looking at the current Drivers' Championship on Discord, there's 20 drivers listed in the championship, but there's been probably a circle of 30, 35 drivers in total since the season started. So, Silverstone, I was absolutely shocked I got a drive on the first round. I was very cagey, and I'm sure it was mentioned in commentary, it was like I was driving with sandbags on, but I was just too nervous, just didn't want to get involved in anything, just get round and finish. So, finished. Others didn't, but I finished. So, and then just got a bit more confidence, then a bit more taking a few more risks and whatnot, and ended up into some side battle with Owen Moore. So that everyone was more focused on than the main championship. So there you go.
And we should mention, Grandad, that with Owen now gone from the league, down to his own downfall, of course, you have won that battle. You will be forever in the history books, known as the man who harpooned down the great Owen Moore and chased him out of the league almost. You made him crack. So kudos to you.
No, it's good. I'm looking forward to the second half of the season. So I think it's going to be harder. I think it'll be more established drivers now as opposed to the floating first 6 races. But get 2 people not liking each other that much and they start smacking each other off, a few safety cars here and there. And I'll bring it across the line in the points.
Nice.
Brilliant. Well, thank you very much, Grandad, for coming on, and congratulations on the full-time seat. And we are excited, as you are, for the second half of the season. Thanks for coming on.
You're welcome. You're welcome. Thank you very much.
So, now, have we all calmed down? Let's just relax here for a second. I'm a bit excited as well. I can tell Cav is as well. Right, on to the last team. We have McLaren, Sailor Sammy as the team principal, and Luke as the first driver. And their second driver is a bit of a shock. And we were a little bit surprised. And it is going to be Bluefoot.
Putting it mildly.
So, the driver who hasn't turned up to a single race has somehow got himself a full-time drive for the second half of the season. So whether he's been in contact with Bluefoot or not, I don't know. But let's hope that Bluefoot is gonna, come back from his holiday at some time this year and be able to drive.
I don't think anyone even knows where Bluefoot is, Josh. To be honest with you, so
no idea.
It's an unusual one, but look, Sailor Sammy, he'll live or die by his own decisions, and we know when he shows up, Bluefoot is very, very capable from other leagues that we've seen him in, but the problem, of course, with Bluefoot is he just hasn't shown up. So, it's a big risk, but Sailor Sammy will make his own decisions, and who knows, maybe this is the great McLaren rebuild that the team needs.
Yeah, so that's it. That's it from us. This is what teams look like. So of course we've gone through them all. We have Hawthorne managing to get himself the full-time drive with Aston Martin, SJR getting Ferrari. Caden has now joined Ryan Dav, so Ryan Dav is looking very, very nice for this second half of the season. Ben Ratcliffe and Griffin have returned to Williams, and
good signings for Ryan.
Yeah, great signings, and I know I wouldn't be signing. But anyway, we have Alfa Romeo, of course, have Hayden and Grandad Gamer, so all eyes on Alfa Romeo now. Bartafor finally in Rando's full-time seat, as he's always been wishing, and Lukey Dookie and Bluefoot in McLaren.
Yeah, and before we go, Josh, I believe Alfa Romeo are already selling Grandad Gamer shirts on their website. So go and get your Grandad Gamer merch off of the Alfa Romeo website. You will not be disappointed. But yeah, it's a lot to look forward to when we get back on this Sunday, Josh.
There is indeed. So we are going to be in Australia. Well, we're not going to be in Australia. We're going to be racing in Australia. But that's it from us today. So thank you for watching. Do tune in this Sunday, 8 p.m. Probably after 8 p.m, knowing us, but anyway, we'll try to be on time, but no, us. Thanks again.